Is Pope Francis anointing his successor by putting him in the limelight? Joining us with the latest from the Eternal City Church Militant Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, which cardinal are we talking about?
Brad, we are talking about Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, president of the Italian Episcopal Conference and Archbishop of Bologna. He's become something of a rock star on the diplomatic circuit, and the cameras of the world's media are right on him.
So how is Pope Francis positioning Zuppi, if he is, to be viewed favorably by the College of Cardinals?
Well, you know, the diplomatic wheels of the Vatican are normally run by people like Pietro Parolin, the Secretary of State, and Archbishop Paul Gallagher. However, in this case, in dealing with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, Pope Francis has thrust Archbishop Zuppi, who of course has a great history in resolving such conflicts, into this particular episode. He's made him his personal envoy. And on June 6th, Archbishop Zuppi first went to Zelensky and met him, and then he went to on the 29th of June to Russia and had talks with Patriarch Kirill. Now, yesterday, in fact, Zuppi has gone to the White House, and he was very warmly welcomed by President Joe Biden. And this morning, the White House released a statement, a very short statement, but basically it wished Pope Francis well, and it wished diplomatic efforts well, and it said that Zuppi is here particularly to talk about the Church's involvement in humanitarian affairs, with special reference to the repatriation of what they call Ukrainian children.
So then, can you elaborate a little bit on Zuppi's main topic of deliberation with President Joe Biden?
Right. It is the question of these children. Now, what the world's media is not telling you is that these children are not quote-unquote Ukrainian children, but they are children of families, parents who were killed in the attacks, Ukrainian attacks on its own regions in the east of Ukraine, regions like the Donbass region. We are talking about places like Donetsk, Luhansk, and these children were orphaned. These children are ethnically Russian because these regions are ethnically Russian, and they have therefore been adopted by Russian families. I mean, why on earth otherwise would Russia want to take on itself the burden of adopting Ukrainian children or kidnapping hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children? And it is this question that is, Zuppi is presumably going to talk about. But again, the identity of these children is not being spoken of either by the Vatican or the White House or the international media.
So is there anything Zuppi himself should have said specifically that is not being said?
There is, and that has particularly to do with the persecution, the fierce persecution, in fact, of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Now, this church has broken away from the Russian Orthodox Church. It has got autocephaly, and it claims to be fiercely loyal to the Ukrainian regime, and yet it is being persecuted. And Brad, we saw this earlier this week when Tucker Carlson was interviewing the GOP contenders for the president, and he interviewed Mike Pence, and Mike Pence was very embarrassed, of course, but Tucker Carlson repeatedly cornered Pence and asked him what he was doing, because Pence claims to be passionately concerned about persecuted Christians. And Pence rather shamefacedly admitted that he had spoken to only one person and said that there is no persecution. But we know priests have been arrested, churches have been closed down, nuns have been attacked, and Zelensky is not favorable at all to the Orthodox Church, particularly the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in his country.
Just before moving on, Jules, can you give us a little, just a very brief update on, or let our viewers know, what's Zelensky's religious background?
He is Jewish. He doesn't claim to be a practicing Jew. From what I see, he's probably an agnostic, but definitely not connected with any branch of Christianity.
How is this visit Zuppi's visit going to impact, you think, the votes of the American cardinals in particular, if there's a future conclave?
And now this is very important because I was talking to a source for quite some time this morning, and my source told me that the Pope has catapulted Zuppi into the limelight so that he will have exposure to, obviously not just the world media, but through the world media to cardinals in different countries. Remember now, we have cardinals in Mongolia, in different parts of Asia, two in Malaysia, thanks to Pope Francis. And most of these cardinals do not know each other. So who are they going to vote for? And my source said when they see Zuppi playing such a strategic role in international diplomacy, I mean, it doesn't matter if he succeeds or if he fails, but we know he's trying his best, and that is going to warm their hearts and move them to vote for Cardinal Matteo Zuppi. Now, the American bishops have, again, source tells me that the Curia, the Vatican Curia, is not very fond of people like Zuppi because they come from the Sant'Egidio stable, which has been involved in kind of parallel diplomatic efforts to the Vatican over the years. And Zuppi won a major victory in 1992 when he successfully negotiated the end of the 16-year-old civil war in Mozambique that had killed over 1 million people and left more than 4 million as refugees. So he's got, a few medals on his chest. But the Vatican doesn't want Sant'Egidio to steal all the glory. However, now if Zuppi goes to America and the American bishops can see what he's doing for themselves, this will be again, a kind of attraction for them to recognize what Zuppi is doing and who he is.
Let's shift gears for a minute on another topic here. In America, the U.S. bishops, or at least 2/3 of the bishops, voted that the pro-life issue is the preeminent issue of our time in America. Now, Zuppi recently expressed a strong pro-life position publicly. Can you recap that for our viewers, exactly what he said?
That's a very good question, Brad, and a very important question, because in May, I did a story on Cardinal Zuppi. He sent a message of encouragement. He sent a letter to one of the biggest pro-life rallies in Italy, in Rome, which had about 40,000 Christians from various denominations. And he said this, he said, "Let us always say yes to life, beginning with life not yet born, safe in its mother's womb, to life that is resting in a hospital bed, watching eternity draw near." So he attacked, in a sense, both abortion and euthanasia. He then went on to criticize so-called surrogate motherhood, he says, which uses a woman, often poor, to fulfill someone else's desire to have a child. And then he talked about how for decades the Italian Bishops' Conference has been concerned by the demographic crisis in Italy, which he said is reaching a critical level. So all 3 points, Zuppi was spot on.
Excellent. Okay, so now with all that being said, Jules, now for the $64,000 question, as they say. In your opinion, what are Zuppi's chances of actually succeeding Pope Francis?
Brad, if I was a betting man, I would put my money on Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, because I can't see, people who are on the extreme on both sides being voted in. Also, the question of visibility is very important. As I said earlier, the cardinals basically don't know one another. And Cardinal Zuppi is very charming. He is gentle. He is balanced. He, in fact, is open to the traditional Latin Mass. So there he has, a take from traditionalist Catholics. He isn't divisive, but he will make every effort to heal whatever divisions have been created thus far. And it's time, sources in the Vatican tell me, for an Italian to come back, simply because there's been so much of bureaucratic, the tectonic plates have been shifting so much under Pope Francis. People want stability, and an Italian who knows the ropes can give them that stability. So we have to wait and see, and I'm no prophet, nor the son of a prophet, but I think Zuppi might be somebody to watch out for very closely.
Yeah, holding on to that stability. Pope Francis is now 86, so the question of who will replace him will answered be quite soon. Pray we get a pontiff who brings clarity to calm the sea of confusion raging against the bark of Peter. Jules, thank you so much for your report and your insightful remarks.
Thank you, Brad.